Your baby is looking at you right now, not at the wall, not at the toy, not at anything else in the room, at you, with that intensity that doesn't quite look like a baby, that fixed, unblinking stare that makes you feel like they're seeing something you can't. And your first instinct is to smile back, to wave, to make a face, because they're looking at you and you're their mom, and this is what connection feels like. But here's what developmental scientists discovered when they studied exactly what's happening in that moment. Your baby has never once looked at you and thought, "That's my mom." Not because they don't love you, not because the bond isn't real, but because the category mom, a person, a role, a human being with a name and a face and a life, that category doesn't exist yet in your baby's brain. What your baby actually sees when they look at you, what you actually are to them, is something far more primal than a parent, far more powerful than a person. And when you understand what that is, when you see yourself the way your baby's nervous system sees you, the way you hold them, talk to them, respond to them, even the way you walk back into a room after being gone for 5 minutes, all of it changes. Stay with me, because this one goes deeper than you expect. Let's start with what your baby actually sees when they look at your face. In the first weeks of life, the visual cortex is one of the least developed parts of the brain. The connections that process detail, color, depth, they're still being built, which means that face you lean in close to show them, the one you make every expression with, the one you've been putting inches from theirs since the first hour they were born, is almost entirely a blur. What your newborn can detect is contrast. Light and dark, movement, heat, the sharp line where your hairline meets your forehead, the dark circles of your eyes against lighter skin, the movement of your mouth when you speak. To their brain, you are not a face. You are a warm, moving, high-contrast environment. Less like a person and more like a living landscape they are trying to map. And before you feel strange about that, here's the part that changes everything. Researchers measuring heart rate synchronization between newborns and their caregivers found something nobody expected. Within days of birth, not weeks, days, a newborn's heart rate begins to synchronize with the person holding them. Their body doesn't know your name, doesn't know your face, can't see you clearly enough to recognize you in any way we'd normally use that word. And yet their heart is already beating in rhythm with yours, like a radio that can't see the station but has already found the frequency. That synchronization doesn't happen with strangers. It doesn't happen with unfamiliar voices or unfamiliar bodies. It happens with you, specifically. Already, before your baby has any conscious awareness of who you are, which raises the question, if they can't see your face yet, what exactly are they recognizing? The answer starts before they're even born. Here's something most mothers never get told. By the time your baby was born, they had already been listening to you for 3 months. At around 28 weeks in the womb, the auditory system comes online. Not fully, sound arrives muffled, filtered through fluid and tissue, stripped of its higher frequencies. But the rhythm is there. The cadence is there. The specific pattern of rises and falls that makes your voice yours. And the brain starts filing it. Every time you spoke during those last 3 months of pregnancy, on the phone, to a partner, to yourself in the car, in the quiet of an ordinary Tuesday, your baby's developing auditory system was listening, building a neurological template, encoding what that specific pattern of sound feels like, not as a voice, as safety. This is why newborns turn their heads toward their mother's voice within hours of birth, not days, hours, before they can see you clearly, before they have any visual memory of your face, before they have any concept of who you are or what you mean to them. They turn because something in their nervous system already knows that sound and already knows what it means. Researchers who tested this found that newborns would work harder, literally alter their sucking patterns on a pacifier to hear a recording of their mother's voice over a stranger's. The preference was immediate, automatic, built in before birth. Father's voices register too. Lower frequencies travel through the womb particularly well. But the primary caregiver's voice, the one present most consistently during those final months, gets hardwired first. So if you ever talked to your bump and felt slightly ridiculous about it, you weren't being sentimental. You were building your baby's nervous system's definition of home, 3 months before they took their first breath, before they opened their eyes, before they knew you existed as a person separate from themselves. Your voice was already there. It was the first thing that ever felt safe. But the voice is just the beginning. Because what your body does for your baby goes so much deeper than sound. This is the one that changes everything. In the 1970s, researchers studying premature infants in hospital incubators noticed something that didn't make sense. These babies were receiving everything medicine said they needed: precise nutrition, perfect temperature, sterile environment, constant monitoring, every measurable variable controlled and optimized. And some of them were still failing to thrive. Not because of infection, not because of any identifiable medical cause. They were receiving everything a body needs to survive. And their bodies were still shutting down. Then, someone had an idea that, at the time, seemed almost too simple to take seriously. What if they needed a person? They introduced what became known as kangaroo care, placing the baby, wires, tubes, and all, directly on the bare chest of the parent, skin to skin, for extended periods every day. The results were so dramatic that researchers initially questioned them. Oxygen saturation improved, cortisol levels dropped, weight gain accelerated. Babies who had been failing began stabilizing. The same babies, same nutrition, same medical environment. The only variable that changed was contact with the human body. What was happening inside those tiny bodies? Your heartbeat tells them how fast to breathe. Your body temperature signals their brain that it's safe to stop producing stress hormones. Your smell triggers the release of oxytocin in their system. Your breathing rhythm becomes their breathing rhythm. The baby's body was not just being comforted by the parent's presence. It was borrowing the parent's biology to run itself. Think about that for a moment. Your baby cannot regulate their own heart rate yet, cannot maintain their own body temperature efficiently, cannot manage their own cortisol levels, cannot self-soothe in any neurologically meaningful way. You do all of that for them. Not emotionally, physiologically. Your body is the external hardware running software. Their system isn't ready to run alone. This is why a baby placed in a perfectly warmed, perfectly safe bassinet screams for 40 minutes and falls asleep in 30 seconds on your chest. It's not preference. It's not habit. It's not you creating a problem by holding them too much. It's a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, seeking the regulation it cannot yet provide for itself, and finding it in you every single time. But if your body is their nervous system, what does your face do to their brain? By 2 months of age, your baby is doing something that looks like admiration. That fixed stare, that total attention, those eyes locked onto your face while everything else in the room disappears. It feels like love, and it is. But it's also something else entirely. It's study. Researchers at the University of Washington found that babies as young as 14 weeks don't just react to facial expressions, they anticipate them. They are building a predictive model of your face, tracking patterns, logging sequences, learning to forecast what expression comes next based on what just happened. They are not looking at you the way you look at someone you love. They are looking at you the way a scientist looks at data. Adult humans can produce over 10,000 distinct facial expressions, and your baby is trying to decode every single one of them. Not because they're curious, because they need to. Because your face is the first and most important source of information they have about whether the world is safe. You look calm, they relax. You look tense, they tighten. You look afraid, they freeze. You look delighted, they reach. Your emotional state, written across your face in micro expressions you don't even know you're making, is being read in real time by a brain that has made your face its primary data source. And here's the experiment that proved just how dependent on that data they are. In 1975, Dr. Edward Tronick at Harvard designed what became known as the still face experiment. The setup was simple. A mother interacts normally with her infant, smiling, talking, responding. The baby is engaged, happy, locked onto her face with total attention. Then the mother goes blank. No expression, no response. Eyes open, but nothing behind them. What happens next has been studied thousands of times, and it still stops researchers cold. The baby immediately notices. They try to re-engage her. Big smiles, pointing, vocalizing, all the things that normally work. Nothing. They try harder, bigger gestures, more urgent sounds. Still nothing. Within 90 seconds, most babies begin showing physiological stress responses. Heart rate rises, cortisol spikes. Some cry, others do something more disturbing. They go flat. They withdraw. They mirror the blankness back, as if the system that was looking for data and found none simply shut down. And here's what matters most. When the mother re-engages, when her face comes back online, recovery happens. But not instantly. The stress of those 2 minutes takes several more minutes to fully resolve. 2 minutes of an expressionless face. That's all it takes to dysregulate a baby who was completely calm 30 seconds before. Because your face is not decoration to your baby. It is not background. It is not something they glance at occasionally for reassurance. It is the first data set they ever use to build a model of how the world works. And every expression you make, every smile, every frown, every moment of genuine delight when they do something new, is a data point being logged, processed, and filed by a brain that is using your face to answer the most important question it will ever ask. Is the world safe? Is it worth reaching into? Is it a place where I can grow? Your face is how they find the answer. And now, after everything we've covered, the last question is the one that ties all of it together. If you are their landscape, their nervous system, their first language, what does that actually make you? Let's go back to where we started. Your baby looking up at you. That fixed, unblinking stare, the one that feels like recognition, like connection, like they're seeing something in you that you can't quite see in yourself. You thought they were seeing their mom. They weren't seeing a role. They weren't seeing a title. They weren't seeing a person in any way we'd normally use that word. They were seeing the answer to a question their body asks constantly, every waking hour, every time they're put down, every time the room gets quiet, every time an unfamiliar face appears, every time something changes in the environment around them. The question is this: am I safe enough to grow? That's it. That's the whole thing. Underneath every cry, every reach, every time they crane their neck to find your face across a room, that question is running, constantly, automatically, in a nervous system that has no other way to answer it except by finding you. And when you appear, when you walk back into the room, when you pick them up, when your voice reaches them before your face does, something measurable happens inside that small body. Cortisol drops, the stress hormone that was keeping the system on alert, scanning for threat, holding everything tense and ready. It falls. Oxytocin rises. The system that governs bonding, warmth, the felt sense of safety, it activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for learning, for emotional regulation, for everything that makes us capable of complex thought and connection, gets the resources it needs to develop. The brain literally builds differently depending on whether that question gets answered. Consistently, repeatedly, over and over. Researchers call this the secure base effect. And what makes it remarkable is not how complicated it is. It's how simple it is. It doesn't require perfect parenting. It doesn't require the right words or the right techniques or any particular method or philosophy. Research shows clearly that what matters is not whether you always get it right. It's whether you come back when you get it wrong. Rupture and repair. That pattern, imperfect, human, sometimes messy, is the pattern that builds secure attachment. Not perfection. Return. Your baby doesn't need you to be flawless. They need you to be the one who comes back. Because here is what you actually are to that baby looking up at you right now. You are not their parent in any way they can yet understand. You are not their protector in any conscious sense. You are not a person with a name and a history and a complicated inner life. You are a signal, the most important signal their nervous system will ever receive. The signal that says, the world is safe, you can breathe, you can rest, You can stop scanning for danger and start building something instead. You can grow. Every time you respond to their cry, every time you walk back into that room, every time you pick them up after putting them down, every time you show up, imperfectly, exhaustedly, with no idea if you're doing it right, you are answering that question. And the brain on the other end of that answer is building itself around your response, not around the perfect parent, around the one who kept showing up. That's what you are. Not a mom in the way the world uses that word, a safe harbor, a biological anchor, the external piece of a nervous system that can't yet run on its own. And there is nothing, no research, no data, no finding in all of developmental neuroscience that comes close to describing something more important than that. Tell me in the comments, was there a moment holding your baby when you felt that? That thing that's bigger than love and harder to name? Because now you know exactly what that feeling was. And if this changed how you see yourself when your baby looks at you, the next video is about what happens the moment your baby locks eyes with you and won't look away. What's actually being built in that gaze is something most parents never know, and you won't see those eyes the same way again.